Hello and welcome to our show, Crooked Doctors. Today is Friday, January 24th, 2014. And I know that Ben out there is going to call me and ask me why I'm wearing this mask like the Lone Ranger. And the reason why I'm wearing this mask is because I'm sick like a dog and I'm protecting our technical people who are just a few feet away from me from my germs. And William Doherty and Jason Berg are in Jersey City, and they're. Oh, Jason's on the line. Hi, Jason.
How you doing, Lydia? Happy Friday. Hi, I'm here. You hear me?
Yeah, wait, we're getting your audio up.
Getting your audio up. All right.
Okay, here you are. I can hear you. Welcome to our show.
Fantastic.
You're not in the studio, but I've got 2 big bottles of champagne in front of me. I got balloons behind me in red, white, and blue. I've got your photograph up. I got William Doherty's photograph up. And today it's a party. So
why is it a party?
Because we have worked very hard in Jersey City to get a new law passed. And this is our new law that Governor Christie signed into law this past Tuesday, and it was Senate Bill S. 2018, a tenant's right to recover attorney's fees, which Governor Christie signed into law. You want to focus in on this a little bit? You know that a dedicated group of people can really change the world, so we did. In New York, there's a law, the New York Real Property Law, that would give a tenant the right to recover attorney's fees, which under common law, and this should buy into what you're working on, because you work with common law. In New York, there's a real property law that says if you win against your landlord, you can recover your attorney's fees so you can be made whole again. So in New York, many tenants don't know about this right. It's founded on the basic principles of contract law. Many tenants don't know about this right, and as a test case, I went down to the old Brooklyn District Attorney's Office with little Mrs. Povinetti and her lease, and we were fighting the big bad landlord, and I said, you know, if she wins, she could recover her attorney's fees. And I had a big fight with the District Attorney's Office, the District Attorney's Action Center, because they said, no, she signed away her rights. No, she didn't. So when we were working on getting this law passed, in Jersey, Matt Shapiro, who's head of the New Jersey Tenants Organization, drafted into our law language that said a tenant's right has to appear on the lease. It's got to be at least 11 font, and it's got to be in bold, so you can't fool tenants. So that means that this law, which Governor Christie signed into law just this past Tuesday, it was down to the 11th hour, just before noon on Tuesday. He signed Senate Bill 2018 into law, a tenant's right to recover attorney's fees. So who do we have on the phone? Is that Bill?
Yeah,
Bill.
Bill's already here.
Hey, Bill, how are you?
I've been pretty good. I see. We'll keep you articulating. You're doing a good job there.
Can you see me on your computer?
I can. I'm seeing you right now.
One of these big bottles of champagne is for you, Bill. I'm going to save it for you.
Well, you did good work. Okay.
We all did good work, and what we're showing here is that a few dedicated people really can change the world for the better. Okay, this is like inspirational.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's great stuff. Great stuff.
And William Doherty is instrumental, and Jason Berg is instrumental in leaving the world a better place. You know, the world doesn't get better because people do nothing. The world gets better. The world gets worse if good people stay silent.
Well, I certainly try.
Are you there, Bill?
I'm here. I'm still here. I'm trying to lower the volume so I can. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. We're good.
So, Jason, are you there? Are there some...
I'm here. I'm still here. I'm sorry.
Okay. So me and Bill Doherty and Jason Berg and another dedicated group of tenants and the New Jersey Tenants Organization have been working on this since I've been working on this since 2008. And I believe in about half an hour or so, Jason's got a list of questions he'd like me to answer. I started working on this because evil flourishes when good people stay silent. So in New Jersey, I was picked on. When I was living in New Jersey, I was going down to Washington, D.C., and I was talking to my elected officials. You can zoom out a little bit if you want. I was talking to my elected officials, and if I had a job, I would be harassed out of my job. But I was living in Jersey City, so my stalkers from Yeshiva University and my evil landlord, who was in contact with them, decided to harass me out of my apartment. This was the retaliation that I was experiencing. So they would execute frivolous eviction after frivolous eviction after frivolous eviction. I would always win, but it dawned on me that I'm getting milked of my attorney's fees. This isn't fair. So I theorized that a law like New Jersey real property law, tenants' right to recover their attorney's fees, must exist, because I'm not stupid. The law is based on common sense, and it's based on facts. So I go to the law library in New York, I do my legal research, and I find New York real property law. And I bring the law from New York back to Jersey, and I start talking to my elected officials. And a key person was that I contacted was U.S. Senator Frank Lautenberg, and his office tried to help. Now deceased. And I think I hit him where he lived, because I really agonized over the letter that I was writing to ask for help. And in that letter, I said, is it more important to hurt Lydia Radin as an individual or to protect every tenant in the state of New Jersey? And I'm pretty sure I hit Senator Lautenberg right where he lived. And he was like, well, okay, we'll help you. And therein ensued me going to every elected official that I could think of, until finally, I went to Senator Cunningham's office. I asked for help. She blew us off. I would go to city council meetings, and I would hand out New York real property law from Columbia University, and I'd write all the reasons why we need to pass this law, and the entire Jersey City Council would blow me off. I went to Lisa Dowling, who claimed to be this big housing advocate, a power in the community, blew me off. I'll tell you the saga of all the people that I went to. Finally, I hooked up with Matt Shapiro. Well, finally, I hooked up with William Doherty. And Bill, do you remember when I got out of prison? Bill didn't care. Bill had an open mind. He was like, come to the city.
Oh, yeah.
What year was that?
Well, after I got released from prison, where I was illegally incarcerated, which was like 2011, I started going back to Jersey City Council meetings. Bill, do you remember the day you said there was a day I was discouraged, and I was like, I'm not going to do this anymore. It's not productive. And you were like, no, you have to come back. Do you remember?
No, I do remember, and you persisted, right? But we're breaking news now. We're moving along moving the ball forward.
Now, the reason why this law is so important is that it not only gives a tenant a right to recover their attorney's fees. See, this is the malicious, the abusive process. This is the way the courts are used to hurt us. Because even though you keep winning frivolous eviction after frivolous eviction, you're milked for attorney's fees. So the courts are used as a means of aggression. When I was on the subway coming in, because I live in Brooklyn temporarily while I get my apartment back in New York, one of the folks that work for Lubavitch, this is a Jewish group here in Brooklyn, gave me this little card, and he started talking to me. And according to them, Jason, you're going to love this. One of the 7 universal laws, this is very important to a big Jewish group here in New York, says it is our mandate as human beings, well, they're talking to their congregation, is to establish honest courts and a just legal system. That's what. So we got to go and get the big rabbi here. I know he died a couple years ago, but this is the Lubavitch in New York, and I remember this rabbi. He used to speak. He's very well known, and unfortunately he died. And I can't pronounce his name as well as I should, and I have a head cold. But I'll get into it. But he sends out members of his congregation, and they give the 7 universal laws, and the 7th universal law is to establish honest courts and a just legal system. That's what we're doing. It's our mandate from God to leave this as our legacy. We cannot stay silent. Okay? The good wasn't made by good people staying silent. You have to speak out.
And the thing is that one in 100 will take the positive road, and I say, you be the one.
Right, a little bit more.
Hello?
Yeah. Well, you saw your questions pretty soon, but first, Eric Martindale was over here yesterday. I don't know how much of this we can discuss, but he's moving the ball forward also.
Oh, yeah, you can't discuss that.
Articulate, they're not giving away the store or something on that?
No, we can't talk about that now. Now we're going to wallow in our victory because it took me 5 years to get this law passed. The year I spent in prison illegally doesn't count, and the year I spent fighting false criminal charges doesn't count. But why do we do this? Because we have to. This is our mandate from God, okay?
That's right.
Doctor, nurse, soldier, teacher, these are priest, rabbi, these are not jobs. These are callings. God calls you to serve, and you must go. There was one person who understood this very well when I was in medical school. His name is Kevin Riley. I believe he's a colonel now. And I went to medical school with him. He was studying to be a doctor. His girlfriend begged him, do not become a doctor, because I will never see you again. What will happen is, medicine will take over your life. My ex-husband said the same thing. Do not be a doctor. I will never see you again. If there's a choice of you being in the hospital with sick people getting better, or with me, I know you're going to be in the hospital doing stuff. Okay, everybody else in my medical school thought that, you were some sort of aristocrat. And I'm like, you don't understand what being a physician is. You do not understand what offering your life in service to others means. And I've had this discussion with some evangelistic Christians. You show God that you love him by offering your life in service to others. That's what we're doing. Now, Jason has a group where he is working very hard to try to establish honest courts and a just legal system.
Citizens group.
Yeah. Okay?
And we're national also.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting...
Exactly. I'm going to turn this over and say, right here, this is the nice little rabbi. The Rebbe calls you. It's a call from God. These are the folks that are in Brooklyn. And I said the same thing when we reached out to Elie Wiesel, Nobel Peace Prize winner, Holocaust survivor. He gets up there, he accepts the Nobel Peace Prize. Now, I was working with my yeshiva victims group, and we had sent a group to contact him. He had a New York office. And what Elie Wiesel travels the world, and he says, where there is injustice, we must interfere. Okay, that's our mandate from God. We're called by God. We cannot not do it. People just tried to discourage me every way they possibly can. You can't go to medical school. You can't get a college degree. You can't do this. You can't. I'm sick of that. Yes, you can. If I can put myself through school and get myself into medical school and then fight the evil at my medical school, anybody can do it. You got to put one foot in front of the other and just do it. So if you the bottom line is, Jason.
There's an old saying, Lydia, build it and they will come. How's that sound? And that's how you grow, right?
Exactly. And the bottom line is, Jason, we are better as a Roman Catholic and a non-Orthodox Jew. As Roman Catholics and a non-Orthodox Jew, we are better Jews than Elie Wiesel. Mr. Where there is injustice, you must interfere. Interfere already. This man is on the board of trustees of my medical school. My medical school was built by Holocaust survivors, and they violate the rights of students. It's unconscionable. They use the court system as a means of aggression. These people are evil, and they flourish because good people stay silent, except for us. Can you back up a little?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's also the fact that it's your conviction and your determination to leave this world better than you entered it.
Exactly. Let me move can I take the bottles away because they're interfering? My bottles
Yeah, I say, Lydia,
yeah.
you and Pauline have court dates next month. You want to just, I'm sure that's, you can put a little on that. That's a plus.
No, we're going to talk about that. It's not about the individual cases that we're working on. We'll get to Pauline in a minute. The way the world changes is when for us, part of the reason we do this show is not just to get positive change and to drive forward positive change is that other people should learn from our mistakes. So we're going to try to help others. Somebody asked me a couple weeks ago, what is the purpose of your show? The first purpose of my show was to keep people alive by exposing the facts. So it's harder for evil to flourish when we're exposing the facts. And you start to figure out how the court system is manipulated. The court system is not supposed to be used as a means of aggression. I mean, you don't take the court system and beat somebody over the head with it. But that's what they do. So we're learning how the court system is corrupt. How would we know this? I mean, I'm off studying medicine. Jason's off trying to do a business. Bill's off doing whatever he is. Only when this means of aggression was used against us do we realize, oh my goodness, this is evil and we must do something about it. So in Jersey, what happened was, if the way to be harassed is you would be dragged into court, just like Pauline was dragged into court over and over and over again. False criminal charges are pressed against her. She has to spend a lot of money and time defending herself, and her life is being ruined. She's been at it for 7 years. Now, us and every tenant that comes after us can recover their attorney's fees. So this is a great protection. Just knowing that this exists will give the landlords a pause to say, you just can't pick on people like they're sheep. And the really good part about this is when Matt Shapiro of the New Jersey Tenants Organization decided to help us, and he's our professional lobbyist. One of the things that he realized that he had incisive insight, and what he realized was that in New York law, the tenant's right is not explicitly stated on the lease.
Correct.
So it's easy to fool people. So when I was staying with little Etelvina Povanetti, who was giving me a place to stay while I litigated to get my apartment back, I had a copy of her lease, and I went down to the old district attorney's office, to his action center, and I showed them the lease, and I said, this isn't right. Her right is supposed to be stated on the lease. And they tried a deceptive practice to try to fool people to say that she signed her rights away. I'm like, no, okay, you can make law by contract. You cannot unmake law by contract. So Matt Shapiro in the New Jersey law included this provision that says the tenant's right has to be stated in the lease. It has to be 11 font, in bold. It can't be, the tiny fine print in the bottom that you can't read. So the tenant will know when they look at their lease, if you've never had any experience, oh, look, I have the right to recover my attorney's fees. I should not be milked of attorney's fees. And they'll bring it to their attention, so they'll ask about it. So they can't be taken advantage of. That means Governor Christie and all of us in New Jersey are in a leadership position. We're way out in front on this issue. We're protecting millions of tenants. And what we can do is use New Jersey law to drive forward New York law. So we got law in New Jersey.
That's the next step. That's the next step.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So as soon as I get past winning the criminal prosecution and my federal case, one of us, and it looks like it's going to be me, will have to go up to Albany and ask the legislature in Albany to supplement and amend and add to New York law so New York law is stronger. So what we're doing is we're pushing the states forward into righteousness, okay? The law serves those who make them, right? The poor, the disenfranchised, the powerless don't make the law. The law serves those who make it. So what we learn in America is that we make the law. Okay, this could never happen in the country that my mother came from. This doesn't happen in totalitarian states. So this is a huge victory. With this law, we literally protect millions of tenants in both states. This is huge. We're making history right now. We should, go ahead.
And I understand that this bill goes into effect in February for New Jersey.
Correct.
Effective February 1st, right?
Correct.
So,
go ahead.
In that law, or actually it's a statute, the big difference, there's only one law, and that's the Constitution law. Everything else is code, statutes, and ordinances.
Well, it will become an NJSA. It's going to pass.
And that's a statute. But what I'm saying is, does it go back, or just starts at that time for the event?
I'm sorry, say it again, Jason. I didn't understand.
It goes into effect on February 1st, 2014.
Yes.
Right.
But is it retroactive to a certain date, or it has to start at the date of February the 1st?
No, it's not retroactive. That was one of the things we had to give
It's
up.
not retroactive. It's not. It states it in the bill, right?
Right. When
It becomes New Jersey statute when it goes into effect on February 1st.
Bill is correct. It's not retroactive. It starts with all leases that begin February 1st, 2014.
Correct.
This was really hard for us to get. I mean, you would not believe. Remember, Bill, when we went to Trenton and we were talking to the state senators and the assembly people?
The first time around, right. We couldn't get it through the assembly.
And they came up with the biggest stupid excuses. I mean, Matt Shapiro and me and Bill were like falling down. You got to be kidding us.
Well, what were some of their objections?
Go ahead, Bill.
Matt Shapiro pulled the rabbit out of the hat because this bill was going to be killed. I don't know how he did it.
Well, I don't think he did it all alone. I mean, I think that Governor Christie
And Senator Stack
and a whole lot of people who called and worked on it had some input. So I remember when I first wrote about this in an email, and I'm going to read you a little blurb about it. There were a lot of people that we asked to help, not only in New York and New Jersey. Can you hear me, or can I take this off for a second? So I'm just going to give you a little synopsis. With this new law, and I said this in an email that I sent out, and I got a commenter about two and a half years ago. With this new law, and I'm pitching to Governor Christie now, Governor Christie expresses his love for his people by helping pass new laws which protect them and give them basic fairness, while at the same time reducing the burden on taxpayers and creating a new source of revenue in the private sector. So all the way around, this is a win-win for everyone, and Mr. Christie demonstrates that he's very presidential. And certainly we couldn't, pardon me?
Pro-tenant.
Yeah, now, I would imagine that if you wanted to, that if you had some aspirations in 2013, you would certainly want to show a huge voting bloc in 2 states, an example of leadership. This is fair to everybody. It's fair to.
Well, Matt Shapiro said it best. He said Governor Christie has a lot on his plate right now, but he found the time to get this bill. He must consider it important, pass and to sign.
Yes. Yeah, it was a little touch and go there because, the Friday before the bill, we were all thinking, oh my goodness, this is going to be vetoed. And we're like, okay, well, we're going to have to do it again. But it didn't.
Veto.
Yeah, but it didn't bother us because we knew that every round we kept getting more supporters and more people agreed with us. So we knew it was just a matter of time before we got this law passed. So there we go, guys. You really can change the world. You really, really can change the world. This is not the first time I've done it. When I worked with Women Organized Against Rape, we changed federal law to make the federal statutes fairer to the victims of rape. They were very unfair laws. There were a lot of myths about rape. So when I was in Philadelphia, years ago, I was part of an organization called Women Organized Against Rape, and it's not a single person who changes the world. It's a lot of people getting together and making sure that they can change things, and we demonstrated this. We're inspirational. Don't you think?
Yes, very much so. I mean, the real thing is that in our United States of America, a republic that is a corporation since 1871, women still don't have equal rights, and some people confuse equal rights with the right to have abortion. That is a separate different thing. But women are still receiving 70% of a man's salary, and they need to be at 100% in parity.
That's true. That's very true. And that 70% figure is deceptive because it's 70% of a man's salary if you're talking about white women. If you talk about women of color, that number drops to like 60%. So unless you can earn, it's equal pay for equal work. If you're going to say that a woman deserves less well, I'm not going to go into all those arguments, but that's true too.
But second-class citizen, what do you thought? Tenants are second-class citizens, or they were.
Not anymore. Not anymore. Okay.
But one of the issues too, they have other laws that are there. But again, if it's a constitutional law and amendment for women having equal rights, there's no way of deferring the rights of the women to be paid equally like a regular man is today. And back in the day, women would be less because the men were the breadwinners. Now women are the breadwinners because men may not be working because of our great, fantastic economy.
Well, that's just silly because if you go back to where, if you go back to, I don't want to get into the whole women's rights thing, but, women fought and died in wars, women raised their children, women have been working jobs, women do 2/3 of the world's work. Don't tell me women don't work, okay? So we'll get to that later. But the bottom line is, this is great. We deserve to congratulate ourselves. Not only are we changing New Jersey law, but we will be changing New York law for the better, okay? So evil flourishes when good people stay silent, and in the words of Governor Christie, we got big mouths and we're using them.
And the squeaky wheel gets the attention. And to quote a German Lutheran pastor, when they came for the unionists, I didn't care. When they came for the communists, I didn't care. When they came for the Jews, I didn't care. When they came for me, there was no one to care.
Exactly. Who's going to speak the day they come for you?
Right.
Exactly.
And we have to be speaking up because, again, the worst thing a good man can do, again, is nothing.
That's right. So, wait, before you go anywhere. So this is Mr. Christie. Isn't he wonderful? And Mr. Christie is standing next to, this is Steve Fulop. This is Mayor Steve Fulop, right here. Let me just go.
They don't see eye to eye. We'll say it that way.
No, we're going to start telling the truth. Steve Fulop is a fraud. This is Mayor.
Everyone is looking for something. Christie came to Philip's inauguration, July the 1st, looking for support. He didn't get it, and all the appointments that Steve Philip had made with the governor were null and void. And I've been trying to see the mayor since July 1, and he's done it to me, so now he knows how it feels.
No, the bottom line is this is Mayor Steve Fulop, and I went to him first. If he was a Marine and an honest guy and really wanted to do right by the people of New Jersey, he would have been on board with passing our tenants' rights bill. But he didn't care. All he cared about was, his public image, which is, it's an empty shell. Okay, Steve Fulop had the chance to be a part of making history. I went to Steve Fulop with the crimes and corruption in my case. Steve Fulop is a fraud. Now he's mayor of Jersey City, and every time I go to Jersey City, he tells lies to try to have me arrested. He also is a graduate of Columbia University, and he didn't like me on campus telling the truth about him because he was trying to raise money for his mayor campaign. So, we're going to be dealing with Columbia University. But this is Governor Christie. And one of the things that I thought was very interesting, and this is why I'd like to say thank you to M&N, because if one of the commentary that I heard was, if this is the way the regular media is treating Governor Christie with Bridgegate, then does this show like how the regular liberal media is going to deal with Mr. Christie should he choose to run for president? Well, if that's true, then alternate media sources like M&N and blog sites and grassroots campaign.
Fox News.
Pardon me?
Fox News.
Yeah, Fox News. But, other alternate media venues become very important because they're not telling the truth about Mr. Fulop, and they're not really telling the truth about Mr. Christie either. So if the media is now just propaganda, then one of the things that we can do, and this is why I do my show, and this is why M&N is very important, is that this is the way to get your voice heard. So if you're dealing with a corrupt court system and they're throwing out your paperwork like they were throwing out mine, and judges are lying, how do you expose the truth? So one of the things that was recommended to me was go on public access TV and start exposing the facts. One of the producers here, a very nice woman named Gloria Messer, when we were trying to work on tenants' rights issues, donated airtime. And we took, remember, Bill, when we did Gloria's show?
That's right.
And we took that show and we turned it into DVDs and we started handing them out in Newark and Jersey City. So we don't really need the regular media because we can find ways to get our message out without the regular media. When our media becomes nothing but propaganda, then there are lots of different ways to work around that. And this is one way of doing it.
Yeah, hey Lydia, how come we can't get any press in the Jersey Journal on our tenants issues? These are very important.
Well, it's the same. We should ask Ron Zeitlinger that. It's the same. It's the same issue that Eric Martindale had in Newark when they had one of the biggest tenant strikes in Newark in the city's history. It was not reported? I mean,
Star Ledger, Jersey Journal.
well, again, look at me. I ran for office this last time around, and Ron
Zeitlinger
didn't want me to get any credit with Pauline Roman and her tenant issue. And he turned around and said, I'm not going to give him any opportunity to win the race.
They said it explicitly. We want you to lose. We're not giving you any press. These are power and control issues. It's not Ron Zeitlinger's call who wins and who loses. He's supposed to report
and be objective.
Correct. So if we zoom out a little bit.
So the media is biased. That's your position.
There you go. So one of the way to correct for the bias of the media and one way to correct for the corruption of the courts is to find alternate ways to get your message out. So that would be MNN, and we can make, I was saying I don't care if they report it or not. I can make DVDs. I can hand them out by the hundreds. In fact, when Dr. Stephen DeLuca was running for Hudson County Executive on the Republican ticket, and he couldn't get press, I said, don't worry about it. We made him 200 DVDs, and I'm like, just hand them out. We can flood the place with DVDs. They're cheap, they're throwaways, and we can get the message out. So become blatantly obvious that the press is biased and controlled.
Also, wasn't DeLuca a Republican also in a Democratic blue county?
Of course. And one of the things that's really important now with the, I heard that there was a federal prosecutor that was an independent federal prosecutor that was going to be appointed to investigate Mr. Christie and his administration. Well, if that's true, then Bill, you, me, and Pauline are going down to that independent federal prosecutor, and that independent federal prosecutor has to start dealing with the Democrats who've been engaged in crimes against us for years. So bring on the independent federal prosecutor. We want to see that in real time.
And the real thing is it's going to be very interesting when the truth comes out because, again, no one wants to tell the truth.
Exactly. So one of the things that we're learning about is that this is not just, our personal struggle, but when you learn the corruption of the courts and how to combat that, then we share this with other people, and it's a field manual to prevent evil. So, for example, one of the things that happened to me was that my transcript was changed. So I had two friends here at M&N. They were producers. They were fighting criminal charges. The prosecutor knew that they were overreaching. I'm like, this is what's going to happen. Your transcript is going to be changed, okay? And they tried that with Bill. You need to get people in the courtroom with great big legal pads, and you need them to start taking notes. So when the judge sees that there are people who are involved and interested, it's going to be harder for them to pick on you because the court system is so unjust. It's manipulated to hurt people.
The thing is, it's manipulated because the courts are a moneymaker for the judges, prosecutors, and other lawyers. Remember, the biggest industry in this country is no longer the auto industry. It is the incarceration prison that is that is now being privatized. There are 2.4 million people in jail, and a majority of them for simple drug crimes that are under the cover of law, which are statutes and federal codes that need not apply to we the sovereign people.
Exactly. And in fact, when you talk to, we can see here, this is good. When you talk to folks, what we don't realize is that the prosecutor gets like an incentive for convicting you. The judge gets an incentive for convicting you. You know, the prison system is a huge business. All they need is warm bodies. So they don't really care about right and wrong. It's a justice system that's based on commission. It's unbelievable, and the injustice is outrageous. You know, go ahead.
There is no justice. We haven't had justice in the system since 1861, when they started to change the thought of making our republic into a corporation. And in 1871, Johnson, the president, would not sign it into law. The Secretary of State did, which makes it illegal, as known as de facto government. And we've been running that way since 142 years.
Yeah, but what we didn't realize, and that's why we're part of a national movement, is that our government was not created, you know, it's not a perfect government. It was created by men who are very thoughtful about suffering the abuses of a monarchy. So our government was made as a reaction to the abuses of a monarchy. So it wasn't unknown to the founding members of our government that if you have a corrupt king and he's going to appoint corrupt judges and they're going to be corrupt sheriffs, that innocent people are going to suffer from a corrupt court system. So what kinds of things could they do? They put power into our hands. And one of the things that Jason's working on is taking power back through the U.S., you know, and this is well established that there is a system in place, and the powers that be don't want us to know how we, the people, can seize power back. And we can start, but we're starting to do this now. We fight back. There are all kinds I'm writing a field manual. These are the things that you can do so that you will not suffer from injustice. I hope that there isn't a Lydia Radin that comes behind me, because I'm going to leave a field manual and so will you, Jason, so will you, Bill. This is going to be a field manual that says what happens if you're facing a corrupt court system. And with just a little bit of effort, you can see that it's working in real time, because with just a little bit of effort, Pauline Roman has turned her case around 180 degrees. And now she's going after the corrupt prosecutor that tried to persecute her. So it's not that hard. It's just that we're trained to be sheep. We're trained not to speak out, and that is not the legacy that our founding fathers left us.
The bottom line is there are three institutions that create obedience: education, government, and religion. Remember, if you think for yourself, you are enlightened and you are fearless. You're dangerous to the establishment, because they cannot take you on, because you do not give them consent to rule you.
Okay, so it's pretty easy to establish, and we're going to go into this more when I talk to the we do this low tech, high tech. As long as we get the word out, we're not proud. We make it work. So there's Governor Christie's picture. Thank you, Governor Christie. One of us is going to have to go to Trenton with a great big thank you card. I guess that's going to be me. But, thank you, Governor Christie. This is historic legislation. It protects millions of tenants, and we can drive forward positive change in New York. Wouldn't you love to be Governor Christie? Wouldn't you love to be a fly on the wall when Governor Christie talks with Governor Cuomo and says, so listen, what are you doing for that huge voting block in New York? What are you doing to help all those tenants in that great big blue state? And Governor Cuomo is going to hear from Governor Christie about this historic new legislation that was signed into law. Okay, that's huge. That's huge. So, Jason, I guess we'll go into the overview next week. But you had 10 questions that you wanted to ask me. Do you want to take part of the show? The last 20 minutes of the show, Jason wanted to ask me some questions. So why don't you just take your time and set this up?
All right. The way it's going to work is you have a minute to respond to the questions. Now, please take your time. If don't use ahs or other crush words because it distracts from your answers. Now, Lydia, I see you as a woman warrior task force in a battle against your antagonists, enemies, and nemesis. Why don't you begin your quest for a vindication? Begin.
Okay, Jason asked me a question. It's a little garbled, so I'm going to try to repeat it loosely. And Jason says he's reflecting, and he says that he sees me, Lydia Radin, as this one-woman warrior task force against, my enemies and evil. And when did my quest for vindication begin? Well, I got to tell you, Jason, I've been doing this ever since I can remember. Because remember, as in high school, I was a member of many groups, and in college, I joined Women Organized Against Rape. I always volunteered some portion of my time, but my specific problem with Yeshiva University started in 1996 when I was illegally suspended, and I contacted the American Medical Students Association, and the president of the American Medical Students Association called my medical school and said, this is not acceptable. And because she called, they started changing things. And one of the things that they changed was they added faculty advisors, because I had asked for that in my first year.
Time's up.
Okay.
I have known you and worked with you for several years from the Jersey City Hall meetings. Why have so many bad things happen to you over the years, which inform the public at each and every council meeting? People don't believe your trials and tribulations. Why do you keep on talking on the same topic?
Because what you're witnessing in real time is persecution. And I've said this on my show. It's not about the details of each episode of persecution. It's the fact that I'm being persecuted. And the root of my problem is Yeshiva University, Martin Bachstein, and Jimmy David. They told a lie, and now they're desperate to turn that lie into a truth. So what you're witnessing is not just bad things happening to me, it's that I'm being persecuted. And the purpose of this show is to expose the facts to stop the persecution.
Great. The word Semitic refers to a language dialect of Hebrews and Arabs of the Middle East. People call you anti-Semitic because you call out the misdeeds of your old university, which is Jewish, and it's the Yeshiva University. Are you anti-Semitic, anti-Jewish?
That is an excellent question. Stephanie, our technical director, could you bring up that is an excellent question. I'm showing up on the internet right now a work that came out in 2006. And if you show that right now, you can just show the whole thing. You don't have to expand it. Just, put that view. Okay, and you can take the stills off. Okay, this is the Israeli lobby and U.S. foreign policy. Okay, you can Google this and you'll find it as a PDF file. Now, the way to silence, Bill, you're good at this, right? Yeah, you can scroll down a little bit.
Go ahead.
Bill, you say this all the time. The way to silence people, or the way to silence me, is to falsely accuse them of being anti-Semitic. And in this work, the false accusation of being anti-Semitic is used as the great silencer. Okay? It is not, and you'll see that. They actually have a chapter here. So if you Google this, the Israeli lobby and U.S. foreign policy, if you scroll to the right a little, down to the left, move the scroll bar, And if you scroll through it quickly, you'll actually, no, to the left, your left, that's good. And then if you scroll down, you'll actually come to a head and keep scrolling. I think it's on page 24, so you have to scroll pretty quickly. But you'll come to a heading that says, keep scrolling. You see where it says?
We're losing time.
I know, I'm sorry, but I wanted to show this. Keep going. Manipulating the media, go ahead, political, wait. Keep going. They talk about Columbia University. I think it's page 24. Keep going. The Great Silencer, right there, okay? This is page 24, okay? This is no discussion of how the lobby operates would be complete without examining one of its most powerful weapons, the charge of anti-Semitism. Anyone who criticizes Israel's actions or says that pro-Israel groups have significant influence over U.S. Middle East policy, an influence that this particular policy group celebrates, stands a good chance of being labeled anti-Semitic, okay? Anti-Semitic. It's the Great Silencer.
All right. Let's go on to
the
next question.
So come back to me. Oh, no, leave it up there for a minute. Okay, so no, I'm not anti-Semitic, and I say this, okay? It's not anti-Semitic to tell the truth, okay? People may not like it, but it's the truth. So all I do is talk about the facts, and the way to shut me up is to claim that I'm a racist when I'm not. Okay, it's the easiest way to silence your critics.
All right, go on to the next question. People call you unbalanced, a stalker, harasser, and an extremist. Why do you think people think and say these things about you?
Well, what are they gonna say? Lydia Radin's a lovely person. Yeshiva University lied to steal money from her. What are they going to say? You know, they have to justify persecution some way. The victim deserved it. You know, this is the same fight we had with women organized against rape. The woman who's raped deserved this crime to be inflicted on her. Why? Her skirt was too short. She was drunk in a bar. If a man sits in a bar and gets drunk, does that mean someone can hit him over the head and take his wallet? No, that's a crime. So you know, it's what can they possibly say? In fact, I'm the one who's been stalked. I'm the one who's been harassed. The people who are persecuting me are unbalanced, as the facts show. So when you deal with the facts, you can see that the people I'm dealing with are psychopaths, specifically Martin Bachstein, who has so engineered the system that you gain insight into the mind of a prosecutor. And what the prosecutor has done, so angry and frustrated, is that he's removed all the protections for the accused from the system. So at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine of Yeshiva University, a false accusation is enough to ruin an innocent person's life.
True that. Now, with your grievances and court filings over the years, have you made any progress and wins against your nemesis?
Yes, at Yeshiva University in 1996 to 1997, they had to put in faculty advisors. They had people come in and change the system. Right now, all of us won this historic piece of legislation. I'm raising the issue of medical students' civil rights. You can't. I got admissions of guilt from Yeshiva University in the Abramova case, where a student, Marlene Abramova, was illegally expelled, and the school admitted that they violated her civil rights. That when a student is brought in front of a student disciplinary committee, that the university does not give them the right to cross-examine their accusers. Well, if you don't have the right to cross-examine your accusers, you don't have a hearing.
It's called the kangaroo court, correct?
Thank you.
Now, on another question, how many years have you been producing CrookedDoctors?
I started producing CrookedDoctors just before I went to prison illegally. I guess that would be in 2010. And I got a few DVDs out. They really wanted to silence me because I had challenged the new district attorney. And then I started doing the show in earnest after I was released from my illegal incarceration in 2011, 2012. So I've been doing it for about 2 years. And the purpose of the show is to expose the facts.
That's fantastic. Now, why do you play Detective Friday for the Dragnet TV series with just a fact scenario, which can be seen as repetitious and boring?
Excellent question. That's an excellent question. Because the purpose of my show kind of changed through time. And a law enforcement official who I actually talked to this week gave me some feedback as I was doing the show. And they said, just give us the facts. We're not interested in your political commentary. You're building a case. Now, the audience, is I'm not here to entertain, although some people might find this drama entertaining. What I'm here to do is to expose the facts so that prosecutors and attorneys and judges and people of good conscience outside of New York can see this and know what we're dealing with and work to change it. If it wasn't for people of good conscience that were willing to change the system, things would be much worse. So Bill says this. Bill, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still there. What do I say, Lydia?
Okay, we're like Chinese dissidents. Like we're trying to get the word out. We're American. We're American dissidents. We don't run our country anymore, and we're trying to get the word out to other dissidents that these are power and control issues. So you need to stick to the facts. If you have no law but all the facts and common sense, you'll win. If you have no facts and just law, you're not going to win. The law is grounded on the facts.
All right. Now, has your just quest helped yourself and others over the years? And who has benefited from your activities?
Yes, and the answer to your question is right here. Here's an example. We protected, as I said to Senator Lautenberg, is it more important to hurt Lydia Radin as an individual or to protect every tenant in the state of New Jersey? So we protected every tenant in the state of New Jersey. And we're going to drive positive, progressive change in New York. So yeah, I mean, with all the issues that we're pushing, not only in individual cases, Pauline Roman would have gone to jail, but she turned her case around because she learned how to speak. Remember when we first met Pauline?
Yes, it was March of last year.
She couldn't even get in front of a city council meeting. The first time she went up there and started telling them the truth, she was shaken. Now she goes up there and she gives as good as she gets. She's sending emails. She's marching down to the FBI. She's going to go to an independent federal prosecutor. That judge who did this to her, Judge Rogers, she's holding her feet to the fire. At any point, Judge Rogers could, of her own volition, change her false, erroneous ruling and put the facts on the record and give Pauline justice. Pauline doesn't have to go to an appeals process.
But she's doing that anyway because that is the format set up by the American Bar Association. And some people think it may be even a communist organization. Now,
but that's only one prong. The other prong is getting the facts out, public pressure, going to the prosecutor.
Yes.
There's lots of different ways that you don't tolerate a bad judge. And, she can make a complaint with the Bar Association. Go ahead.
Well, there's a point. Because the United States since 1871 has been de facto a corporation, judges can be sued under corporation laws. So if lawyers, judges, and other people of the American Bar Association think that they're above the law, they're under it. Now,
that's very interesting, Jason, because that's really good. When judges learn, for example, like Judge Rogers in Pauline's case, that, hey, you could be sued, okay? Your bond can be called into question. This could be liability for the town that employed you. When Judge Patterson learns that, in my case, oh, you fabricated a ruling, you don't get away with it. You inflicted harm on me. You helped the school steal money. You're not a judge. All these people want us to believe that they're above the law. They're not. And this is very important. The people that you're working with, are fighting the myth, for example, that the prosecutor, like the district attorney's office, has absolute immunity. No.
Well, the bottom line here is that a judge cannot create a law. Law is based on precedent, at least in the United States, and precedent changes in different countries, but it's basically based on precedents or other ways of looking at it. Example is the change of separate but equal was okay in 1895, was overturned in 1954, Brown versus the Board of Education. Another point. Now, last question. I noticed when you speak at the city council meetings that you are respected, as the council members snicker and laugh. Why do you think they are so disrespectful and demonstrate their contempt against you?
I think that they're not people of good conscience, because normal, decent people would be horrified and would be moved to do something. I think that Dan Levin is right when he characterizes the culture of corruption in Hudson County has become so deep that the unacceptable becomes acceptable, and we've lost our sensibilities. And that's why we need, a moral voice, like the Rebbe, where he says, it's your mandate from God to establish just courts. So I think the problem is when you allow evil to flourish. I mean, people ask me this. I'm like, how is it possible that I could be talking to Jewish people and they always ask the question, how does the Holocaust happen? The Holocaust happens, you see it happening in Jersey City. This is why the Holocaust happens, because good people stay silent, because the unacceptable becomes acceptable.
Yeah, very good. Listen to this. The way for evil to prosper is for good men to remain silent.
Right.
Now, Bill is inspirational because, if it wasn't for Bill relentlessly driving this thing forward and organizing people and going at, Bill is like a house of fire. He won't stop. Jason Berg is a mensch. I mean, you're a righteous person, Jason. You start bringing people into this is wrong and we need to change it. Now, the reason why the law changed is because it's not the poor, it's not the disenfranchised, it's not the powerless that make the law, okay? The law serves those who make it. It's our law. We take our government back. So we got to wrap up. We got about 15 seconds left. We'll work on more next week. Thanks, Jason. You want to say goodbye? Jason?
Yes, goodbye. Thank you very much. It was an excellent program. We're going to do that more. I mean, the power is in the people. The people is the power, are the power. And without consent, there is no authority to take us up the river or down the river to be put incarcerated, to support a system that has been de facto since 1871.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Bill.
All right. Thank you. God bless.
All right. Hey, council meeting Wednesday. I don't know.
Okay.
The goal will be gone then.
Okay.